Good afternoon. So today I'm doing a book review, A Long Line of Dead Men by Matthew Scudder. We'll edit that out. This is A Long Line of Dead Men by Lawrence Block. This is book 12 in the Matthew Scudder series. It was published in 1994. I mean, that's genius right there. I mean, I got to keep that in. Summary of this story in the Matthew Scudder series is I enjoyed because it's a simple premise. You have this gentleman named Louis Hildebrand who knows Matt, comes to him and is like, hey, I belong to this Club 31, a gentleman's type club. We're got people that are dying at a high rate, much higher than, if you just random picked 30 people in the general population. We're dying off at 2 and 3 times the rate. There's something fishy going on. We need someone to investigate what's going on. And so they hire Matthew Scudder to do investigative work to find out who the killer is. What you don't get, though, and what's part of really the summary, the premise of the book, is what are they going to do when they find the person? And that's where, to me, I think is where the meat of the ending is. So before we get into what I like and dislike, and spoilers, that was the premise of the book. So let's talk about what I like. Elaine and Matt, they definitely have, the relationship is still there. As we got in the previous book, when they were talking about wanting to move in together and Elaine starting her gallery and art studio. So we have that, but we don't have Scudder living with her. I mean, he spends nights there, but there's this kind of brief drop where he's talking about going back to his hotel room, to do something. And then I was like, well, I thought they were living together. And so I thought that was interesting. The other thing that was interesting and which kind of created this, plot thread or some conflict or strife, so to speak, was the fact that in the previous story, one of the murder victims, the wife, the widow now, which is Lisa Holtzman, who Matt was sleeping with in the previous book, he is still sleeping with her today. And so that seemed like kind of a forced, kind of conflict type thing. I mean, maybe it creates, more dynamic in Matt's character that he's a broken person and not always morally, sound type thing. As far as though the major likes, TJ is in this story. TJ plays kind of an interesting role in the sense that he has some character development of his own. He is selling art in Elaine's art studio and acting as kind of like surveillance and assisting her type thing. And so he's got kind of some work, so a job with her, and then he obviously helps Matt in this investigative case, with odds and ends and kind of feet on the street type stuff. So that was very interesting. Mickey Ballou obviously it plays a role in the sense that you have some conversations with Matt meets Mickey and Matt doesn't drink but Mickey does, and they have their conversations. I enjoy Mickey Ballou and some of his stories. It's kind of getting some insight to him. The climax of the book was really good. The whodunit part of it isn't like, to me, like what was like, oh my gosh, like it was like, yeah, I saw that coming from a mile away, but that didn't really detract from my enjoyment of the book in the sense that it's set up, okay, now you know who it is, what are you going to do about it? And so obviously the people that hired Matt, that are members of Club 31, his point of contact is like, propositions Matt for additional payment, and so Matt has to make some hard decisions, and then they cryptically talk about a plan that you don't know, and then at the end of the book you figure out what the plan was to deal with the person now that they know who it is, and Matt's involvement in that. I thought that was really good. So the ending of the book I really liked for 2 reasons. One, that how they set that up and what they did with the murder, I really enjoyed that. What I also liked in the ending was 2 things. One, you got a timestamp about sobriety on Matthew Scudder. He has been 10 years sober, and they did it kind of just offhandedly. I really liked how Block did that, and that was towards the latter part of the book. But then at the very, very end, as everything is, the climax of the book, and I really liked how Matt and Elaine, again, they talked about in the previous book, like, we need to get married type thing, but obviously they haven't. Matt's like, you know what? I got extra money. We're going to take a vacation overseas. And before we do so, let's go down to, the city hall, and we're going to get married. And so at the end of the book, you see them, they're overseas, they're on their honeymoon, and they're married. And so it really sets up for further books down the road. Obviously, there's 4 or 5 books left. So we'll see how that goes. Dislikes. I think if I'm going to be nitpicky, my one dislike was like, it's pretty evident who the killer is. But it doesn't detract from my enjoyment of my overall enjoyment of the book because of how they deal with it. They deal with the person. My other dislike, I want more TJ. I mean, I just like the conversations. I like him as a character. I think he's great. I would like to see Matthew kind of go head to head against, like a murderer or killer type thing. But again, these are mystery thriller types. So the mystery is kind of not knowing. But I would like to see, one where he goes head to head. I think and then lastly, if I'm really being nitpicky, maybe a book where you don't have so much discussion around AA and meetings and sobriety. I mean, this one didn't. So I enjoyed it a lot. And again, it had a simple premise, which I enjoyed. So, but that's me to being nitpicky. Those are the things I disliked. Overall, I give this a solid 4.0 out of 5, which is very high. Anything in high 3s, low 4s on a Matthew Scudder book is top tier. So this was a very enjoyable entry into the Matthew Scudder series. So that is my book review. Matthew Scudder, got it right this time. A Long Line of Dead Men, 4.0. I enjoyed this book. I hope you're having a great day. Talk to you later.